ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजाननपद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानामेकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्जसम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹரா. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யகம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. वागर्ताविव सम्पृक्तौ वागर्त प्रतिपत्तये जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्रीपार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं पूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरणभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुवमभिलषति व्यर्थमर्त्यव्रजोऽह्यं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलादरोष्टात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീറക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുമ്പിടേണ്ടതോരു പ്രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കനായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so we'll do a review of 47 and 48. Vijaya and Matangi, can you do one each?
Yeah, I'll do 47.
Matangi, will you be able to do 48?
I didn't practice 48 that much. I can do 47, but 48 nanu practice pannala nanu.
Okay. Usha, can you do 48?
Yes, yes, Rajeshkar.
Okay, okay. All right, go ahead.
Dasakam 47. Ulukala Bandhanam Varnanam. एकदा दधिरिमातकारिणीं मातरं समुपसेविदान् भवान् स्तन्य पतया निवारयन् अङ्कमेत्यपपिवान् पयोदरौ कुच कुडमले त्वयि स्निग्धः समधुराननाम्बुजे दुग्धमीश दहने परिसृतं दर्दुमाश जननी जगामते.
Again, the first line like kudmale, id, not a kud, not a full da, just a id, kudmale.
Kudmale. सामीपीतरसभङ्गस्त सङ्गत क्रोधभार परिभूत चेतसा मन्ददण्डम् उपगृह्य पाटितं हन्त देवदधिभाजनं त्वया
Uchalai. There's a ich and a cha. Uchalais dvanitam.
उच्चलैध्वनितम् उच्चकैस्तदा सन्निश.
Tune, I think in the tune is when I stopped you starting. Uchaladvanitam uchakaistada.
उच्चलैध्वनितम् उच्चकैस्तदा सन्निशम्य जननी सामधृता वद्यशो वदद्रशसा दर्शसा सद्य एव दधि विसृतं क्षितौ वेदमार्ग परिमार्गितं वृक्षा तवम् अवीक्ष्य परिमार्गयन्यसौ सन्दधर्ष सुकृतीन्युलूखले दीयमान नवनीतमोतवे.
Second line, twamavikshya.
Twamavikshya.
Yeah.
Twamavikshya. त्वां प्रगृह्य बत भीति भावना भासुरानन सरोजमाशुषा रोषरूक्षित मुखी सखी पुरो बन्धनाय रक्षणामुपादते बन्धुमिच्छतिवमेव सञ्जनस्तं भवन्तमयि बन्धुमिच्छति सानिजूष्य रक्षणागुणान् बहून् दुय्यङ्गोलुमाखिलं किलक्षता.
And the last line, dvengulonam, dvengulonam.
द्विङ्गुलोनम् अखिलं किलक्षता विस्मितोस्मित सखी जनोक्षितां स्विन्नसन्न वपुक्ष निरीक्षतां नित्यमुक्त वपुरोऽप्यहो हरे बन्धमेव कृपयान्मन्यताः.
And the last third line, nityamukta vapurapyaho hare. Like one thing you said different in that line.
नित्यमुक्त वपुराप्यो हरे.
Just vapurapyaho.
वपुरप्यहो हरे बन्धमेव कृपयान्वमन्यताः. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, correct then.
Yeah. स्तीयतां चिरमूलुखले कलेति तागत भवन्नेव सायदा प्रागुलुकलबिलान्तरे तदा सर्परीतम अदनावसावास्तिताः.
In the last line, sarpirarpitam. Then you can break it. Adannavastitaha.
सर्पि अर्पितम् अदन्नवास्तिताः
Yeah, exactly.
यद्यपाक्षसुगमो विभो भवान् संयत किमु सपायः सपाश्ययानया एवमादिदिवीजैरभिष्टुतो वातनाथ परिपाहि मां घतात् कृष्ण
Very good.
యమలార్జున భంజన వర్ణనం ముదా సురౌగైస్త్వముదార సమ్మదై ఉదీర్య దామోదర ఇత్యుభిష్టుతః మృదూరస్వరైములుఖలగన్ అదూరతోద్వౌ కకుభావు దక్షతాః.
Ushakura, the third line, Mrududara Swairam Ulukhale-lagan.
Yes, sorry. మృదూధరస్వర ములుఖలేలగన్ అదూరతోద్వౌ కకుభావు దైక్షథా కుబేరసూనురున్నల కూవరాభిదః పరో మణిగ్రీవ ఇతి ప్రథాం గతః మహేషసేవాధిగత శ్రియోన్మదౌ చిరం కిల తద్విముఖావఖేలతాం సురూపగాయాం కిల సురాపగాయాం కిల తౌ మదోత్కటౌ సురాపగాయద్బహుయౌ యౌవతావృతౌ వివాససౌ కేలిపరౌ సనారదౌ భవత్పదైక ప్రవణో నిరైక్షత భియా ప్రియాలోకముపాత్తవాససం పురో నిరీక్ష్యాపి మదాంధచేతసౌ ఇమౌ భవద్భక్త్యుపశాంతి సిద్ధయే మునిర్జగౌ శాంతిమృతే కుతః శుకం యువామవాప్తౌ కకుభాత్మతాం చిరం హరిం నిరీక్ష్యార్థ పదం స్వమాప్నతం ఇతిరితౌ తౌ భవతి క్షణస్పృహం గతౌ వ్రజాంతే కకుభౌ బభూవతు అతంద్రమింద్రద్రుయుగం తదావిధం సమేయుషామందరగామినా త్వయా తిరాయితోలుఖలరోధ నిర్ధుతౌ చిరాయ జీర్ణౌ పరిపాతితౌ తరు అభాజిషాకిద్వితయం యదా త్వయా తదైవ తద్గర్భతలాన్నిరేయుషా మహాత్విషా యక్షయుగేన తక్షణాత్ అభాజి గోవింద భవానపి సత్స్తమైః ఇహన్యభక్తోపి సమేష్యతి క్రమాత్ భవంతమేతౌ ఖలు రుద్రసేవకౌ మునిప్రసాదాద్భవదం గ్రీమాగతౌ గతౌ వృణనౌ ఖలు భక్తిముత్తమాం తతస్తరుద్ధారణదారుణారవ ప్రకంపి సంపాతిన గోపమండలే విలజ్జితత్వజ్జననీ ముఖే క్షిణా వ్యమోక్షినందేన భవాన్ విమోక్షదః మహీర్ముహోర్మధ్యగతో బతార్భకో హరేః ప్రభావద పరీక్షతోధునా ఇతి బ్రువాణర్గమితో గృహం భవాన్ మరుత్పరాధీశ్వర పాహి మాం గతాత్.
Okay, very good. All right, so let's continue from 51. I think we have done the first 4 stanzas. We'll continue from 5. So first half, Lata, you and Radha, you can be students. Second half, Ram, you and Shanti can be students. Okay. So I think finished 4. Yeah. So stanza 5. प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्नगोधरं क्व तत्तनौ पशुपकुले तवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहृज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्. So we saw in this, right, how the one day all these Gopa boys, Krishna, everybody had gone, grazing. And then they had just moved to Vrindavan. And then they saw this big Aghasura was coming in the form of a large python. And they thought it was just some theme park or something like that, some attraction that was there in Vrindavan. And all the boys had ended up going in. So that's what actually happened in the 4th stanza. So with the boys then start going in, right? So Aghasura, who's now wants to get rid of the cowherd boys, the calves, and Krishna also. So he's actually waiting. So, he's waiting because he also wants Krishna to actually enter. So we saw in the previous stanza how when the boys entered, they looked at Krishna and Krishna was there and Krishna did not stop them. So they said, okay, you know what? And then they all got in. So now they all start entering. And when they start entering into Aghasura's mouth, that's when they start feeling this heat that was actually generating because of the poison which was actually there in the body of Aghasura. And then they all begin to panic, but they're wondering something else is happening and they all get in. At the same time, now Krishna also decides that once all the boys, all the calves have gotten in, Krishna also now decides to enter into the mouth of Aghasura to save his friends and the calves. So Pramadataha, put a F, Pramadataha pravishati panna godaram, comma, kwatat tanau, so kwa sound, kwatat tanau, pashupakule savatsake, vidannidam twamapi viveshita prabho, comma, suhrij janam visharanam ashu, if you want to break it, visharanam ashu rakshitum. प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्नगोधरं क्व तत्तनौ पशुपकुले सवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहृज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्.
प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्ननगोदरं क्व तत्तनौ पशुपकुले सवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्. प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्नगोदरं क्व तत्तनौ पशुपकुले सवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहृज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्.
That on the last line, first word, suhrij janam.
Oh, सुहृज्जनं, sorry.
प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्नगोदरं क्वदत्तनौ पशुपकुले सवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहृज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्. प्रमादतः प्रविशति पन्नगोदरं क्वदत्तनौ पशुपकुले सवात्सके विदन्निदं त्वमपि विवेशित प्रभो सुहृज्जनं विशरणमाशु रक्षितुम्.
गलोधरे विपुलितवर्ष्मणा त्वया महोरगे लुटति निरुद्धमारुते द्रुतं भवान् विदलितकण्ठमण्डलो विमोचयन् पशून् विनिर्ययौ. So when Krishna gets inside, so it's very similar to the Vamana Avatara, right, where he becomes Trivikrama later on. So here Krishna also enters into the mouth of Aghasura, and once he enters, he starts growing in size. So when he starts growing in size, even Aghasura realizes that something, he knows Krishna's power, so he also starts growing in size. So, but beyond that particular point, Aghasura could not grow, but Krishna kept growing. So what happened was Krishna essentially was choking into the throat of Aghasura as a snake, and so he could not breathe anymore. So his mouth could not be opened further, and it was stuck. So at that point, Aghasura's life air, prana vayu, then left. And what happened was, it didn't have any place to go, so it actually broke out from the center of the top of his head, and we'll see why that is, right? So, and that'll come in the next stanza. So, on the top of his head center, his pranavayu escapes. So, once that finally escapes out and Aghasura now dies, then Krishna and all the friends, they actually come out of the mouth of Aghasura, and then they actually come out. So, Galodare Vipulita Varshmana Tvaya, Mahorage Luthati Niruddha Marute, Drutam Bhavan Vidalita Kantha Mandalo, Vimochayan Pashupa Pashun Viniryayo. Galodare Vipulitavarshmana Tvaya Mahorage Lutati Niruddha Marute Drutam Bhavan Vidalita Kantha Mandalo Vimochayan Pashupa Pashun Viniryayo.
Galodare Vipulitavarshmana Tvaya Mahorage Lutati Niruddha Marute Dhrutam Bhavan Vidalita Kanta Mandalo Vimochayan Pashupa Pashun Viniryayo. Galodare Vipulitavarshmana Tvaya Mahorage Lutati Niruddha Marute Dhrutam Bhavan Vidalita Kanta Mandalo Vimochayan Pashupa Pashun Viniryayo.
Galodare Vipulitavarshmana Tvaya Mahorage Lutati Niruddha Marute Dhrutam Bhavan Vidalita Kanta Mandalo Vimochayan Pasupa Pashun Viniryayo. Galodare Vipulitavarshmana Tvaya Mahorage Lutati Niruddha Marute Dhrutam Bhavan Vidalita Kanta Mandalo Vimochayan Pasupa Pashun Viniryayo.
Viniryayo.
Okay.
Stanza. Kshanam deve tvadupagamārtamastitam mahasura prabhava maho maho mahate vinirgate tvayitu nilina manjasa nabastale nandruturato jagussuraha. So, when later on we'll see when we do this Ashtanga yoga and how you get liberated and how at the time of your death you have to move your prana through the various nadis and how you exit out, right? If you're able to control your prana, all that we'll see. But anyway, so at that point, there are a couple of spots from which if it exits, then you are guaranteed liberation soon. And one is the top of your head. If it exits out, then you're getting liberated. So that's what here, because because Krishna himself had gone into the body of Aghasura became very blessed. So he then getting liberated. So when Krishna, when Aghasura, when the pranavayu comes out, the gods are observing that there is some effulgence or a light which was actually hovering over the body of Aghasura, which waited for Krishna to actually come out. And then eventually when Krishna came out, it then merged into the body of Aghasura. So all these demigods saw it and saw, what blessed Aghasura is. He's a demon, he's an asura, but somehow he's actually getting liberation very easily, right? And then he then enters into the body of Krishna, and so they all begin to pray. So this is something we'll see later on at the end of Krishna Avataram, the 88th chapter, last slokam. There's a very beautiful stanza which will come there, which says Krishna Avataram is one of those avatars where no matter what you did, whether you are a friend of Krishna or an enemy of Krishna, you hated Krishna, you loved Krishna, you married Krishna, you were a friend of, no matter what you were, all of them got liberated. That was one thing which was common in Krishna Avataram. So that's what even Bhattacharya at one point he'll say that I am suffering now because I must have been born during Krishna Avataram Dwapara Yuga, but I didn't like you or hate you or friend you. I didn't do any of that stuff. I was just standing by the sidelines ignoring you. So that is the reason I didn't get liberated, right? That's what he says. So anyway, so here Aghasura then gets liberated and then he gets into the body of Krishna. Yeah, so Kshanam Divi Tvadupagamārtam Astitam, if you want to break it, Tvadupagamārtam Astitam, Mahasura Prabhavamaho Maho Mahat Vinirgate Tvai tu Nilinam Anjasa, Nabha, put is Nabastale Nandruturato Jaguhu, put is Jagussuraha. Kshanam deve tvadupagamārtamastitam mahasura prabhava maho maho mahate vinirgate tvayitu nilina manjasa nabhastale nandruturato jagussuraha.
Kshanam क्षणं दिवि त्वदुपगमार्तमास्तितं महासुरप्रभवमहो महो महत् विनिर्गते त्वयि तु निलीनमञ्जसा नभस्थले ननुतुरतो जगुस्सुराः क्षणं दिवि त्वदुपगमार्तमास्तितं महासुरप्रभवमहो महो महत् विनिर्गते त्वयि तु निलीनमञ्जसा नभस्थले ननुतुरतो जगुस्सुराः
क्षणं दिवि त्वदुपगमार्धमास्थितं महासुरप्रभवमहो महो महत् विनर्गते त्वयि तु निलीनमञ्जसा नभस्थले ननृतुरथो जगुस्सुराः क्षणं दिवि त्वदुपगमार्धमास्थितं महासुरप्रभवमहो महो महत् विनर्गते त्वयि तु निलीनमञ्जसा नभस्थले ननृतुरथो जगुस्सुराः।
Stanza 8. सविस्मयैः कमलभवादिभिः सुरैः अनुद्रुतस्तदनुगतः कुमारकैः दिने पुनस्तरुणदशामुपेयुषि स्वकैर्भवानतनुत भोजनोत्सवम्. So this Aghasura was like a very famous asura, which even the gods were fearing. So when Aghasura finally gets killed, so all the gods are really praising and saying, this Krishna Avataram is great, you got rid of Aghasura. So Brahma also comes to hear about it. And Brahma then is coming and noticing what is happening. And he sees that Aghasura is also dead, right, along with the several others. And then he's actually wondering what is happening, right? How is this Krishna? See, sometimes what happens is, right, and you'll notice it, no matter whether and this is common even for us, sometimes what is happening, but at the heat of the moment, you then forget the actual what is happening, and then you start acting differently, right? So you may know something is wrong, but you'll still end up doing, thinking that I'm not going to get caught, right? Various reasons. So similarly, that's what happens with Indra, Brahma, all of them, right? Because if you remember, originally in the 37th chapter, everybody goes and then they only go and pray to Narayana saying, please help us out. That's when the Krishna Avataram happens. But sometimes, they also keep forgetting what's happening, right? So Brahma is wondering, how is Krishna so powerful? He's such a small boy. I know it's an incarnation, but how is this incarnation so powerful? Brahma is also beginning to wonder. So anyway, so as that is happening, so here, Taruna Dasham, the sun is attaining a youth state. Or what it means is sun is beginning to shine bright. So that means that lunch time is approaching. So you, Krishna, along with your boys, remember they had come for a picnic. They had packed all these mixed rice and everything, right? So you all decide to now time to have a picnic. So you all sit down to eat. Sa vismayehi, put the ih sound, vismayeh. Kamala bhavadi bihi, put the is. Kamala bhavadi bis suraihi, put a visarga at the end of that line, comma. Next line, the ra becomes a. Anudrutas tadanu gataha, put a ih sound, gatah kumarakaihi. Dine punas taruna dashamupeyushi, comma, swakhair bhavan athanuta. If you want to break at that, na bhavan athanuta bhojanotsavam. Savismayeh kamala bhavadibhih suraihi anudrutas gatah kumarakaihi dine punas taruna dashamupeyushi swakhair bhavan athanuta bhojanotsavam. You're on mute.
Sorry, Rajesh, my phone unmute was not working. Savismayaiv kamala bhavadi bisuraihi anudrutastadanugataf kumarakaihi dine punastaruna dasha mupeyushi swakair bhavanatanuta bhojanotsavam. Savismayaiv कमलभवादिभिः सुरैः अनुद्रुतस्तदनुगतः कुमारकैः दिने पुनस्तरुणदशामुपेयुषि स्वकैर्भवानतनुत भोजनोत्सवम्.
सविस्मयैः कमलभवादिभिः सुरैः अनुद्रुतस्तदनुगतः कुमारकैः दिने पुनस्तरुणदशामुपेयुषि स्वकैर्भवानतनुत भोजनोत्सवम् सविस्मयैः कमलभवादिभिः सुरैः अनुद्धृतस्तदनुगतः कुमारकै दिने
कुमारकैः
गतः कुमारकैः दिने पुनस्तरुणदशामुपेयुषि स्वकैर्भवानतनुत भोजनोत्सवम्
विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् भुभोजितत्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः. So then Krishna then tells the boys, they decide to eat. So he says, okay, let's go to the banks of Yamuna. This place looks good. So they identify a spot and they say, this is a perfect spot for us to have a picnic and we should start having our lunch there. So they have a couple of things. Vishanikam. Vishanikam is like the horn, like I was telling, right? They have like a horn-shaped thing which you blow, like a bugle. So they have that. Murali is referring to the flute. Then the Nitambike is a waistband. So they kind of put all their horn, and I'll tell you why this is relevant, because some of this is going to continue into the next chapter. So they take their flute, the horn they have, and everything, they tug it into their waistband, and then they all have this mixed rice in their hand. And Bhattaripad that says Kabbaladhara, he just says a ball of rice, but Bhagavatam says he has a ball of yogurt and rice, so curd rice, right? So even Krishna liked curd rice, right? So he had a hand, he had curd rice in his hand, and they all then sat down to talk and humorous, and they prahasayan. So they were all like making fun of each other, right? Having fun as boys. They're 5 years old at this time, right? I'll tell you why that is also relevant later. So they're 5 years old, so they're all sitting and having fun and talking, and all the gods are looking at it and saying how blessed they are, and that will continue as well. So Vishani Kamapi Muralim Nitambake, put a plus, Niveshayan Kabala Daraha, is there, put a ich sound, Kabala Darah Karambuje Prahasayan Kalavachanaihi, again ich sound, Kalavachanai Kumarakan, comma Bubojita Tridasha Ganair Muda Nutaha. विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् बुभोजितत्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः.
विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् बुभोजित त्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः. विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् बुभोजित त्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः.
विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् बुभोजितत्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः. विषानिकामपि मुरलीं नितम्बके निवेशयन् कबलधरः कराम्बुजे प्रहासयन् कलवचनैः कुमारकान् बुभोजितत्रिदशगणैर्मुदानुतः.
The first two lines are together. I don't know if I'm missing it. After Nitambake, it's Nivesh. You have to say 1 and 2 together, okay?
Okay.
Stanza 10. Sukhasanam tvihatava gopamandale makhasanat priyamiva deva mandale iti stutastridashavarir jagatpate marutpuri nilaya gadat prapahimha. So kind of all the gods are discussing, demigods, they were discussing, saying that even if somebody like Aghasura hated Krishna, wanted to kill Krishna, but then he kept thinking of Krishna in his mind, he got liberation. So he says, imagine if somebody really liked Krishna and was thinking Krishna in a positive sense. So it's even better for all of them. They will attain also the feet of the Lord. So that's what they were discussing. And then another thing they say, so you all remember, Vishnu Sahasranam, there is one stanza which comes, Yajna Brit, Yajna Krit, Yajni, Yajna Bhuk, Yajna Sadhanaha, Yajnantakrit, Yajna Guhyam, Anna Manhada Evacha. Says you are Yajna Bhuk, which means whatever somebody puts into the Yajna, you are the one who consumes that. You are the consumer of everything that is put into the yajna. So the God says, you, Krishna, or Narayana, who is the incarnation anyway, Krishna is. So he says, you who consumes everything that is put into the yajna, you are still not happy compared to Sukhashanam Tvihatava Gopa Mandale. When you are sitting with your friends, Gopa boys, sharing whatever food they were eating. So each of them are sharing. Krishna has curd rice, somebody has puliyodare or something. So they're all sharing and eating. Says you, Krishna, are more happy sitting with the Gopa boys, sharing and eating with them compared to all the yajna bhuk. When people are putting havis or anything into the yajna, even that doesn't make you happy. You are so happy. So that is Sukhashanam. You are having a happy meal. Bhattaripat says, sitting with the Gopa boys, and that makes you extremely happy. So that Marut Puri, that Lord of Guruvayur, please eradicate all my ailments. With this chapter comes to an end. Sukhashanam Tviha. So it and then we have Tviha Tava Gopa Mandale, comma Makhashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale. Whatever the Devas give through Homam, even that you don't like as much as what the rice that the boys are giving you, that you are enjoying more. Iti Stutas Tridasha Varair Jagatpate, comma Marutpuri Nilaya Gadat Prapahimam. Sukhashanam Tvihatava Gopa Mandale Makhashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale Iti Stutastridashavarair Jagatpate Marutpuri Nilaya Gadat Prapahimam.
Sukashanan Tvihatava Gopa Mandale Makashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale Iti Stutas Tridashavarir Jagatpate Marutpuri Nilaya Gadat Prapahimam. Sukashanan Tvihatava Gopa Mandale Makashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale Iti Stutas Tridashavarir Jagatpate Marutpuri Nilaya Gadat Prapahimam.
Sukhashanam Tvihatava Gopa Mandale Makashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale Iti Stutastridasavarai Jagatpate Marutpuri Nilayagadat Prapahimam. Sukhashanam Tvihatava Gopa Mandale Makashanat Priyamiva Deva Mandale Iti Stutastridasavarai Jagatpate Marutpuri Nilayagadat Prapahimam.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Completes 51. So we go on to 52, which is kind of like a continuation, but it's a new story. So it's Brahma Krita Vatsapahara Varnanam. So Vatsa is referring to the calves here. Apaharam is like stealing. So stealing of the calves and the boys by Brahma. That's the thing here. Stanza 1. Anyāvatara nikareshva nirikshitam te bhūmātirekamavivikshya tadāghamokshe brahma parikshitu manasa praroksha bhavam ninyeta vatsakaganan pravitatya maya. So Shukha Brahman in Bhagavatam tells Parikshit that the boys, the Gopa boys, they were in the Kaumara age. Kaumara means up to 5 years of age. I mean, this incident happened, he says, which is 51. Aghasura incident happened when the boys were 5 years, like I said right earlier. Then he says, however, when they reach the Pauganda age, which is the age from 6 to 10. So when they reach the next year, 6 years, the Parikshit, Shukha Brahman says, the boys go and tell it to their family as if it happened today, right? But they had already reached Pauganda age, but it happened during the Kaumara age. So then Parikshit says, how is that possible that whatever happened in Kaumara age, they're saying it 1 year later? So then that's when Shukha Brahman goes on to tell this story, this incident that happens. So he says that, Brahma, like we were talking earlier, Brahma is wondering that Anyavatara, in all the other avatārams of yours, Brahma says, I have seen what you do in all the avatārams. But somehow in this avataram, you're only 5 years of age. In Narasimha avataram, you came as Narasimha. So it's expected that you are coming strong. But here you're coming as a small boy and you're doing all these things. And at 5 years, you're able to get rid of Aghasura. So Brahma is also beginning to wonder, like, let me also test your potency. Let me see how much you can push yourself, right? So Brahma decides to test. So when Brahma decides to test, what he does is he comes there and he first goes and takes away all the calves. So it says he makes the calves invisible. Essentially what it does is he takes away the calves from there, right? The calves are all grazing because the boys sit down to eat and the calves go away grazing somewhere. So the Brahma then takes away all the calves away. So Anyavatara Nikareshwa Nirikshitam Te, comma, Bhumatirekam Abhivikshe, if you want to break it, Bhumatirekam Abhivikshe Tadaga Mokshe Brahma Parikshitu Manaha, put is Manas Paroksha Bhavam, comma, Ninyeta Vatsaka Ganan Pravitatya Mayam. Anhyavatara Nikareshwa Nirikshitam Te Bhumatirekam Tadaga Mokshe Brahma Parikshitu Manasa Paroksha Bhavam Ninhyeta Vatsaka Ganan Pravitatya Mayam.
अन्यावतार निकरेष्व निरीक्षितं ते भूमातिरेकमभिवीक्ष्य तथागमोक्षे ब्रह्मा परीक्षितुमनस परोक्षभावं निन्येत वत्सकगणान् प्रवितत्य मायाम् अन्यावतार निकरेष्व निरीक्षितं ते भूमातिरेकमभिवीक्ष्य तथागमोक्षे ब्रह्मा परीक्षितुमनस परोक्षभावं निन्येत वत्सकगणान् प्रवितत्य मायाम्
अन्यावतार निकरेष्व निरीक्षितं ते भूमातिरेकमभिवीक्ष्य तथागमोक्षे ब्रह्मा परीक्षितुमनस परोक्षभावं निन्येत वत्सकगणान् प्रवितत्य मायाम् अन्यावतार निकरेष्व निरीक्षतं ते भूमातिरेकमभिवीक्ष्य तथागमोक्षे ब्रह्मा परीक्षितुमनस परोक्षभावं निन्येत वत्सकगणान् प्रवितत्य मायाम्.
Answer 2. Vatsanavikshya vivashe pashupotkaretan anetu kama iva dhatrumataanuvarti tvam sami bhukta kabalo gatavam stadhanim bhuktam stirodhita saroja bhavah kumaran. So when the boys were all sitting and eating, suddenly they see that the calves were no longer visible. They were able to see it at a distance, but now that is also not there. So now, of course, they begin to panic because they're responsible of taking care of the calves. So Krishna says, no, don't worry, you all sit and eat. Let me go find out where the calves are. Now, Krishna knows what has happened, but he doesn't want to panic the boys. And also it says here, you want to see how far Brahma will go, right? So you then decide to leave the boys also alone and you say, let me go look for the calves. And then you again take that kabalo, you take that ball of rice in your hand, you're eating the rice, and then you go looking for the calves. So when Krishna goes looking for the calves, that gave Brahma an opportunity. So he also took the boys away. So even the boys have disappeared now, even the calves have also disappeared from that spot. Vatsana vikshya vivashe pashupotkare tan, put in, comma, na, next word becomes a. Anetu kama iva dhatru mathanuvarti tvam sami bhukta. Sami bhukta is half eaten. So you're still eating that ball of curd rice, right? Sami bhukta kabalo gatavams tadanim, comma, bhuktams tirodhita saroja bhavaha. Put the ich sound, saroja bhavah kumaran. So anyway, Saroja Bhava is coming. That means the one who's born out of a lotus, which is Brahma. Vatsana vikshya vivashe pashupotkarethan anetu kama iva dhatru mathanuvarti tvam sami bhukta kabalo gatavam stadani bhuktam stirodhita saroja bhava kumaran.
वत्सानवीक्ष्य विवशे पशुपोत्करे तान् आनेतु काम इव दातृमतानुवर्ती त्वं स्वामी भुक्तकवलो गतवांस्तदानीं भुक्तां स्थिरोदितसरोजभवः कुमारान् वत्सानवीक्ष्य विवशे पशुपोत्करे तान् आनेतु काम इव दातृमतानुवर्ती त्वं सामि भुक्तकवलो गतवांस्तदानीं भुक्तां स्थिरोदितसरोजभवः कुमारान्
वत्सानवीक्ष विवशे पशुपोत्करे तान् आनेतु काम इव धातृमतानुवर्ती त्वं सामि भुक्तकबलो गतवांस्तदानीं भुक्तां स्थिरोदितसरोजभवः कुमारान् वत्सानवीक्ष विवशे पशुपोत्करे तान् आनेतु काम इव धातृमतानुवर्ती त्वं सामि भुक्तकबलो गतवांस्तदानीं भुक्तां स्थिरोदितसरोजभवः कुमारान्।
Answer 3. वत्सायितस्तदनुगोपगणायितस्त्वं शिक्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगबलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययात बहुधा व्रजमाययात. So what does Krishna do now? The calves have disappeared. The boys have also disappeared. So he can't go back home like this. Because if he goes back home, the first thing people are going to ask is, how come all the calves have disappeared, all the boys have disappeared, only you have survived, right? So then people will start suspecting Krishna. So he decides, you know what, I have to now do something here. And so it says to create more fun for Brahma. Sometimes when you're playing with your child and the child is trying to hit you, right? So you try to act as if, you let the child go for a while, try to hit you, right? Similarly, he says to give pleasure to Brahma, you then, and to teach the world how you are the entire cosmos. What you do, O Krishna, is you become all the Gopa boys and all the calves. And when you say you become the Gopa boys, it has to have the exact same feature. One Gopa boy is a fat boy. One of them is a thin boy. One of them has 6 fingers. One of them may have some handicap, right? One of them may have more hair, less hair. So you become exactly like those Gopa boys. You become exactly like the various calves. Then we spoke about how they all had that bugle horn. They had the flute. They all had the waistband. Each of them might have a favorite color. So you also have to become those bugle horns. You become the flute. You become those waistbands. Then each of them have a dabba in which they have got their food. So you have to become those dabba, because even that has gone, right? And then imagine that you have to, when you go back home, if your kid comes back home, you give some pulao to your kid. And the kids come back home and the thing is empty. You know something is wrong. The boy has trashed the food somewhere, right? Because he doesn't eat beans. He always leaves beans back, as an example. So when the boy comes home, the mom checks. They have to see the beans in the dabba. So you have to become the beans left over in the dabba also. Because there should be no suspicion, right? So you become everything that the boys had, the boys, the calves, all the things that they have. And also you have to behave exactly like them, right? So you have to also behave exactly like how each of the boys are doing. So you then do that, and then you come to Gokulam now, along with all the calves, along with all the boys and all the things, and leftover food, leftover dabbas, everything that is there, you return to Gokulam in the evening, or Vrindavan in the evening. Vatsayitas tadanu gopa ganayitas tvam, shikyadi bhanda murali gavaladi rupaha. Like we said, all of those words, murali is referring to the flute, shikyadi bhanda referring to the waistband and the bugle and everything. Pragvat vihritya vipineshu chiraya sayam, tvam mayayata bahuda brajam ayayatha. वत्सायितस्तदनुगोपगणायितस्त्वं शिक्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगबलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययात बहुधा व्रजमाययाथ.
वत्सायितस्तदनुगोपगणायितस्त्वं शिक्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगबलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययात बहुधा व्रजमाययात. वत्सायितस्तदनुगोपगणायितस्त्वं शिक्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगबलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययात बहुधा व्रजमाययात.
वत्सायितस्तदनुगोपगणायितस्त्वं शिक्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगबलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययात बहुधा व्रजमाययाथ. Vatsayita.
Last letter. Tha, second tha.
Tha. Okay. वत्सायितस्तदनु गोपगणायितस्त्वं शिख्यादिभाण्डमुरलीगवलादिरूपः प्राग्वद्विहृत्य विपिनेषु चिराय सायं त्वं माययाद बहुधा व्रजमाययाथा
त्वामेव शिक्यगबलादिमयं दधानो भूयस्त्वमेव पशुवत्सकबालरूपः गोरूपिणीभिरपि गोपवधूमयीभिः आसादितोऽसि जननीभिरति प्रहर्षात्. So it's you, Krishna, you alone in the form of the boys, in the form of the calves, in the form of the various things, right? So it's now you are dragging some, like you are dragging yourself, right? Carrying yourself in the various forms, all of it, and you enter Gokula or Vrindavan in the evening. Now, of course, when you come, if your child always comes and then they throw the bag at the entrance of the house when they come, put the socks somewhere, and suddenly all of a sudden they start behaving good, you will start suspecting something is wrong with this boy today. So he has to behave exactly like that. So each of the boys are behaving exactly like that. And when they were playing the flute, each of the mothers could recognize who their boy is from the way the flute was also played, because that's when there's absolutely no suspicion, right? Now the calves come. Now we don't know about how animals behave, but animals also can identify their own offsprings. So the mother cow should be able to identify its offspring, right? So that calf has to behave in its own unique way. So all of them were behaving in that unique way, and each of them, and there's absolutely no suspicion. So both the mothers as well as the cows have no suspicion, and all of them come back and then start behaving in that exact same way. So Twameva Shikya Gavaladi Mayam Dhadano, Bhuyas Twameva Pashu Vatsaka Bala Rupaha Go Rupini Bhirapi Gopa Vadhu Mayi Bihi. Put a visarga and comma. Next line, the Ra becomes A. Asaditosi Janani Bhirati. That's one word. Janani Bhirati Praharshat. So we welcomed them in the evening with great joy, all the mothers and the cows. Twame Vashikya Gavaladimayam Dadhano Bhuyastvameva Pashuvatsaka Rupaha Gorupini Bhirapi Gopa Vadhumayi Bihi Asaditosi Janani Bhirati Praharshat.
त्वामेव शिक्य गवलादिमयं तदानो भूयस्त्वमेव पशुवत्सकबालरूपः गोरूपिणीभिरपि गोपवधूमयीभिः आसादितोऽसि जननीभिरतिप्रहर्षात् त्वामेव शिक्य गवलादिमयं तदानो भूयस्त्वमेव पशुवत्सकबालरूपः गोरूपिणीभिरपि गोपवधूमयीभिः आसादितोऽसि जननीभिरतिप्रहर्षात्
त्वामेव शिक्ष्य गवलादिमयं दधानो भूयस्त्वमेव पशुवत्सकबालरूपः गोरूपिणीभिरपि गोपवधूमयीभिः आसादितोऽसि जननीभिरतिप्रहर्षात् त्वामेव शिक्ष्य गवलादिमयं दधानो भूयस्त्वमेव पशुवत्सकबालरूपः गोरूपिणीभिरपि गोपवधूमयीभिः आसादितोऽसि जननीभिरतिप्रहर्षात्.
It's halfway, we'll switch. Ram, even Shanti, you can be students. Stanza 5. Jeevam hi kanchidabhimanavashat swakiyam matva tanuja iti ragabharam vahantyah atmanameva tu bhavantamavapya sunam pritim yayurnakiyati vanitascha ghavaha. So it says, everybody, because abhimanam, they have a sense of I-ness or oneness, right? Because of which you always love your child more, slightly more than everybody else. But however, in Vrindavan, it was kind of always the opposite. Everybody loved Krishna more, slightly more than their own children, right? But now what was happening was suddenly they are seeing that they seem to love all the boys the same. So previously, they used to love Krishna a little bit more, then their son used to come, and then all the other kids used to be number 3. But now all of a sudden, the mothers are seeing that they start liking the neighbor's boy also the same way. And everybody seems to be, and the boys don't get, everybody, Krishna, they used to scold him less. So everybody is now getting scolded less. So all these people are beginning to experience this sense of bliss or happiness that they have not experienced before. And they're not able to tell why that is. But they're actually all in an elated state of happiness. Even the cows are beginning to be very happy relative to what they used to be before. And that entire period, right, it goes on for a year. So in the entire period, everybody is very happy and everything seems to be normal. They all go in the morning to this thing, what you call graze. They come back in the evening. The boys continue to behave. Each of the boys have a unique identity. They continue to behave in that exact same way. Nothing changes, but somehow the parents are beginning to feel very happy, happier than normal, which is very, unusual for parents of 5 and 6-year-old boys, right? So jivam hi kanchit abhimana, if you want to break it, kanchit abhimana vashat swakiyam, comma, matva tanuja iti ragabharam vahantyah atmanameva thu bhavantam avapya sunum, comma, प्रीतिम ययुर्न कियतीं वनिताश्च गावः जीवं हि कञ्चिदभिमानवशात् स्वकीयं मत्वा तनूज इति रागभरं वहन्त्यः आत्मानमेव तु भवन्तमवाप्य सूनुं प्रीतिं ययुर्न कियतीं वनिताश्च गावः
जीवं हि कञ्चिदभिमानवशात् स्वकीयं मत्वा तनूज इति रागभरं वहन्त्यः आत्मानमेव तु भवान्तमवाप्य सूनुं प्रीतिं ययुर्न कियतीं वनिताश्च गावः जीवं हि कञ्चिदभिमानवशात् स्वकीयं मत्वा तनूज इति रागभरं वहन्त्यः आत्मानमेव तु भवन्तमवाप्य सूनुं प्रीतिं ययुर्न कियतीं वनिताश्च गावः
जीवं हि कञ्चिदभिमानवशात् स्वकीयं मद्वादनूज इति रागपरं वहन्त्यः आत्मानमेव तु भवन्तमवाप्य सूनुं प्रीतिं ययुर्न कियतीं वनितास्तकावः जीवं हि कञ्चिदभिमानवशात् स्वकीयं मद्वादनूज इति रागपरं वहन्त्यः आत्मानमेव तु भवन्तमवाप्य सूनुं प्रीतिं ययुर्न कियतीं वनितास्तकावः.
Answer 6. एवं प्रतिक्षण विजृंभित हर्षभार निःशेष गोपगण लालित भूरिमूर्तिं त्वामग्रजोऽपि भुबुदे किल वत्सरान्ते ब्रह्मात्मनोरपि महान् युवयोर्विशेषः. So this, like I said, this goes on for a year, right? And like the Gopas, Gopikas are all in a sense of bliss. They're all extremely happy. Now, if you recall, 51st chapter beginning, I said, when the Gopa boys and Krishna all went to picnic that day, Balarama did not go. I mentioned that, right? And like I said it happens 2 times. One of them, it happens here. Next, it will happen during Kaliya Mardana, right? Because Balarama is the incarnation of Adishesha. So anytime Krishna deals with snakes, Balarama doesn't go. So this time Balarama had not gone that day, which means of all the boys and everybody who's there, the only person who's the actual person is Balarama. Everybody else is Krishna now, right? So even Balarama did not know about this. And Bhattaripad also says that between you both, you are your Vishesha, you are Vishesham, because like we said, the incarnations are of different types. There is a partial incarnation that might happen, or Leela Avataram which might happen. Narasimha Avataram happened for a period of time. Lord came as Narasimha, got rid of Hiranyakashipu, blessed Prahlada, he left. That was the duration of the Narasimha Avataram. But only 2 avatars are Purna avatars, which is Rama Avataram and Krishna Avataram. And the two, in between the 2 Purna avatars, Krishna Avataram is the full potency of the Lord, because in the 37th chapter he says, I myself am going to come with full potency. That's why the rules do not apply to Krishna Avataram. In Rama Avataram, Rama has boundaries, right? He cannot just think and the bridge doesn't get made. He has to have the monkeys to build the bridge, right? And he cannot just fly in an instant and go kill Ravana. But in Krishna Avataram, all of those things will happen. He'll defy the gravity of physics and all of that stuff. And a lot of things are going to happen in this chapter also. So Krishna Avataram is a Purna Avataram, because of which even Balarama did not know that all of these people are Krishna. However, Bhagavatam so beautifully explains two incidents that happen 5 to 6 days before the 1 year completion, which is not there in Narayaneeyam, but I'll tell you those two incidents. So one of them is when they all go grazing, the calves and cows. So the cows, when they have newborn calves, the milk is given as a priority to the newborn calves, right? The cow milk, the newborn calves first go suck the milk from the mother. So the calves which are older only get a second priority. But what Balarama observes one day is all these calves are coming down from the mountain after grazing. Krishna along with the boys are coming. The mother cows are there. But the mother cows give preference to those old calves, which are with Krishna, than to their newborn calves. So Balarama says, this is very weird. How is that happening? How can a mother cow give priority to those calves which are older compared to the newborn calves? That is one thing he notices. The second thing he notices is when these calves start running here and there, normally the Gopa men would have scolded the boys, but they don't scold the boys. They actually feel like embracing the boys. So Balarama says these two things are very unique. Something is wrong. So he then goes and tells Krishna, Krishna, you tell me what is happening here, right? Something is wrong. Something looks very different here. So that's when Krishna tells Balarama what actually happened. So that's the story that comes here. That's saying with this, Krishna, you explain to Balarama what happened in the period of 1 year that has now transpired, and 5 to 6 days before that has happened, Balarama notices it. Only then even Balarama comes to know, nobody else knows about this, right? So evam pratikshana vijrumbita harsha bhara, put a plus, nishesha gopa gana lalita bhuri murtim Tvam agrajopi bhubude kila vatsarante, brahmatmanorapi mahan yuvayor visheshaha. Evam pratikshana vijrumbhita harsha bhara nishesha gopagana lalita bhuri murtim Tvam agrajopi bubudhe kila vatsarante brahmatmanorapi mahan yuvayor visheshaha.
एवं प्रतिक्षण विजृम्भित हर्षभार निःशेष गोपगणलालित भूरिमूर्तिम् त्वामग्रजोऽपि बुबुधे किल वत्सरान्ते ब्रह्मात्मनोरपि महान् युवयोर्विशेषः एवं प्रतिक्षण विजृम्भित हर्षभार निःशेष गोपगणलालित भूरिमूर्तिम् त्वामग्रजोऽपि बुबुधे किल वत्सरान्ते ब्रह्मात्मनोरपि महान् युवयोर्विशेषः
एवं प्रदीक्षण विजृम्भित हर्षभार निःशेष कोप गणलालित भूरिमूर्तिम् त्वामग्रजोऽपि बुबुधे किल वत्सरान्ते ब्रह्मात्मनोरपि महान् युवयोर्विशेषः एवं प्रदीक्षण विजृम्भित हर्षभार निःशेष गोप गणलालित भूरिमूर्तिम् वामग्रजोऽपि बुबुधे किल वत्सरान्ते ब्रह्मात्मनोरपि महान् युवयोर्विशेषः.
Last line, Shanti. Brahmatmanorapi.
Brahmatmanorapi mahan.
Yeah, you got it. And the 7. Varshavadhau navapuratana vatsapalan drishtva vivekamasrine druhine vimudhe pradidrisha pratinavan makutangadade bhushams chaturbhuja yujas sajalam budhaban. So now let's come back to what happened to Brahma, right? So Brahma, who had taken the boys and the calves, so 1 year was like less than an instant for Brahma, right? So for Brahma then decides, okay, let me see what is happening, right? After he takes away these calves and the boys. So Brahma, when he sees in that spot, in the banks of Yamuna, where the boys were all sitting and eating, he sees that the boys are all there, the calves are already there, and then he looks with him. He also has the boys, he also has the calves, and he's not able to notice any difference between the two boys, the boy sitting here and the boy sitting there, and same with the calves. So Brahma is now beginning to wonder what is happening. Like, I thought I had taken all these people, but they're all there. So he's now begins to question who is real and who is fake, right? How can there be two people who are exactly the same, right? So one of them has to be real, one of them has to be fake. So Brahma is confused now. What is actually happening? And when Brahma comes there to see it, all of a sudden he sees that the boys and the calves who are all with Krishna become exactly like Krishna. So they all are now blue colored. They all are wearing pitambaram. They all have a peacock feather in their hat. The calves also have that. The boys also have that, and everybody is becoming Krishna. And then he suddenly sees, then it goes further, which I think I'll come say in the next stanza anyway. So anyway, so he sees that all of them are looking like Krishna. All of them have the Chaturbhujam, and all of them have the same things, and they all look exactly like Krishna. And he doesn't know, he's confused. What is actually happening? Now there are no more boys and calves or anything. There's only Krishna. He sees multiple Krishnas who are actually standing there. So Varsha Badhau Nava Puratana Vatsapalan, Drishtva Vivekamasrune Druhine Vimudhe Pradidrishaha, put a F, Pradidrishah Pratinavan Makutangadadi, and then put a plus, Bhushansh Chatur Bhuja Yujaha, put a is Yujas, Sajalambu Daban. Varshabhadhau navapuratanavatsapalan drishtva vivekamasrune druhine vimudhe pradidrishah pratinavan makutangadade bhushams chaturbhujayujas sajalambudaban.
वर्षावधौ नवपुरातनवत्सपालान् दृष्ट्वा विवेकमसृणे द्रुहिणे विमूढे प्रादीदृशः प्रतिनवान् मकुटाङ्गदादिभूषांश्चतुर्भुजयुजः सजलाम्बुदाभान् वर्षावधौ नवपुरातनवत्सपालान् दृष्ट्वा विवेकमसृणे द्रुहिणे विमूढे प्रादीदृशः प्रतिनवान् मकुटाङ्गदादिभूषांश्चतुर्भुजयुजः सजलाम्बुदाभान्
वर्षावधौ नवपुराधनवत्सबालान् दृष्ट्वा विवेगमसृणे दृहिणे विमूढे प्रादीदृशः प्रदिनवान् मकुडान् ददाति भूषां चतुर्भुजयुजः सजलाम्बुदाभान् वर्षावधौ नवपुराधनवत्सबालान् दृष्ट्वा विवेगमसृणे दृहिणे विमूढे प्रादीदृशः प्रदिनवान् मकुडान् ददाति भूषां चतुर्भुजयुजः सजलाम्बुदाभान्.
That's 8. Pratyekameva kamala parilalitaanghan bhogindra bhogashayana nayana bhiraman dila nimilita drishasanakadi yogya vyase vitan kamala bhurbhavato dadarsha. So Brahma first sees all these boys becoming, all the boys, then he sees all of the boys and the calves becoming Krishna, then he sees all of them becoming Krishna with the Chaturbhujam and all the Gada and everything. And now what Brahma is seeing is what he saw on his first day of Kalpa when he got a vision of Vaikuntham, where he actually sees the Lord lying down on Adishesha, Narayana with Lakshmi Devi on one side, and the Narada and the Sanaka and all the sages worshipping him. He's seeing that forms. He's seeing multiple of those Narayanas in the ground, right? So Brahma is now completely shocked, because imagine you suddenly see one person having multiple forms standing in front of you. Even we'll get shocked, and even Brahma gets shocked. He's like wondering, how is this happening, right? And then he sees that all of them become one. So it is kind of all these transformations are happening, right? First he sees the boys, then he sees everybody becoming Krishna, then he sees everybody becoming Narayana lying on Adishesha, and then he sees everybody becoming one person. So essentially the Lord was showing that at the end of the day, everything that you see, whether it be this the food container, or whether it be the flute, or whether it be the garment, or whether it be the person or the cup, no matter what it is all him and the same thing, right? There's only one universal truth, Brahman, which is what the Lord is. So that's what he shows Brahma there, right? Even Brahma suddenly comes to a realization, right? And for a second, he realizes what is happening, and he realizes his truth, which of course he knew, but somehow, he wanted to kind of test the limits of Krishna avataram, right? And then he realizes this Krishna who is there is the ultimate truth. And so Brahma then prostrates Then he completely surrenders to the Lord. And when he completely surrenders, then what happens is all these other extra people, extra characters are all gone. And the old boys, and they all return. And they come back to the exact time as to what was happening. So when Krishna was having that half-eaten ball of rice in his hand, that same Krishna is now sitting there with that same half-eaten ball of rice. It is as if nothing happened in 1 year, right? From the time Brahma took the boys and the calves to what has happened now. So absolutely no change that is actually happening. Okay, we'll do the 8th, right? Yeah, okay. Did we do 8 or 8 mudichoma, Ram? Mudichoma, yeah. You chanted 8?
8 and 8.
Do it.
You have to chant, okay. प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिलालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोग शयनान् नयनाभिरामान्, लीला निमीलित दृशः, put a is drishas, sanakadi yogi, short e and then put a plus, vyasevitan kamalabhur bhavato dadarsha. प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिहालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोग शयना नयनाभिरामान्, लीला निमीलित दृशः सनकादि योगी व्यासेवितान् कमलभूर्भवतो ददर्श.
प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिलालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोगशयनान् नयनाभिरामान्, लीलानिमीलितदृशः सनकादियोगि व्यासेवितान् कमलभूर्भवतो ददर्श. प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिलालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोगशयनान् नयनाभिरामान्, लीलानिमीलितदृशः सनकादियोगि व्यासेवितान् कमलभूर्भवतो ददर्श.
Shanti, mute little.
प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिलालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोगशयनान् नयनाभिरामान्, लीला निमीलितदृशः सनकादियोगि व्यासेवितान् कमलभूर्भवतो ददर्शः.
ददर्श, no visarga there.
Okay, ददर्श. प्रत्येकमेव कमला परिलालितांगान्, भोगीन्द्र भोगशयनान् नयनाभिरामान्, लीला निमीलितदृशः सनकादियोगि व्यासेवितान् कमलभूर्भवतो ददर्श.
I ended up telling the meaning of the 9th also, but 9th essentially, that's where he's seeing the Narayana form everywhere. And then when he realizes and he prostrates, everybody goes away. And then now he's seeing the Krishna and the boys, just like how he had left with the boys sitting in the exact same spots, the cows grazing there, and they are eating their food, and Krishna is having that half-eaten ball of curd rice in his hand. Right? So Narayana Kritim Asankyatamam, if you want to break it, Kritim Asankyatamam Nirikshya, Sarvatra Sevakamapi Swamavekshya Dhata Maya Nimagna Hridayo Vimumoha Yavat, put it and a comma. Next word, the Deko becomes Eko. Eko Bhabhuvita Tada Kabalardha Panihi. You saw the same words Kabalardha earlier. So, are the half-eaten ball of rice in your hands. Narayana Kritima Sankyatamam Nirikshya Sarvatra Sevakamapi Swamavekshya Dhata Mayani Magna Hridayo Vimumoha Yavat Eko Bhabhuvita Tada Kabaladha Panihi.
Narayana Kritima Sankyatamam Nirikshya Sarvatra Sevakamapi Swamavekshya Dhata Mayani Magna Hridayo Vimumoha Yavat Eko Babhuvita Tada Kabalardhapanihi. Narayana Kritima Sankyatamam Nirikshya Sarvatra Sevakamapi Swamavekshya Dhata Mayani Magna Hridayo Vimumoha Yavat Eko Babhuvita Tada Kabalardhapanihi.
नारायणाकृतिम् असङ्ख्यतमां निरीक्ष्य सर्वत्र सेवघमभि स्वमवेक्ष्य दादा माया निमग्नहृदयो विमुख यावत् येगोपभूवित तथा कबलार्थपाणिः नारायणाकृतिम् असङ्ख्यतमां निरीक्ष्यं सर्वत्र
निरीक्ष्य
नारायणाकृतिम् असङ्ख्यतमां निरीक्ष्य सर्वत्र सेवघमभि स्वमवेक्ष्य दादा माया निमग्नहृदयो विमुख यावत् येकोपभूवित तथा कबलार्थपाणिः
That's it. नश्यन्मदे तदनु विश्वपतिं मुहुस्त्वां नत्वा च नूतवति धातरिधामयाते पोतैः समं प्रमुदितैः प्रविशन्निकेतं वातालयाधिपविभो परिपाहि रोगात्. So Nashyanmade, so once his what do you call, his pride was destroyed, and Brahma then surrendered, and then Brahma then went back. So all the boys, everybody, now the actual boys and the Gopa boys and the calves and everything came back home, right? And that's when the boys that day, when they come back home, they tell their parents, you will not believe what happened today. We were all going there. We saw some big attraction. We thought it was just some plaything. We went in, but then it ended up being a big python who ended up swallowing us, and Krishna saved us. Now the parents also don't believe, how can you enter into the mouth of a python and how can Krishna save? So they also discount what the boy says. But for the boys, it appeared as if that incident happened that day. So that's when Shukaprabhu says that the boys said what happened in the 5th year, they said as if it happened that day only in the 6th year, because now they have gone to the Pauganda age, right? So with that, but this chapter comes to an end. So Vatalayadipa Vibho Paripahi Rogat, please eradicate all my ailments, Lord of Guru. Nashyan Made Tadanu Vishwapatim Muhustwam, Natva cha Nutavati Dhatari Dhama Yate Potaihi, put is Potais Samam Pramuditaihi, put F Pramuditaif Pravishan Niketam, Vatalayadhipa Vibho Paripahi Rogat. Nashyan Madhe Tadanu Vishwapatim Muhustwam Natva cha Nutavati Dhatari Dhamayate Potais Samam Pramuditaif Pravishan Niketam Vatalayadhipa Vibho Paripahi Rogat.
नश्यन्मदे तदनु विश्वपतिं मुहुस्त्वां नत्वा च नूतवति धातरिधामयाते पोतैः समं प्रमुदितैः प्रविशन्निकेतं वातालयाधिप विभो परिपाहि रोगात् नश्यन्मदे तदनु विश्वपतिं मुहुस्त्वां नत्वा च नूतवति धातरिधामयाते पोतैः समं प्रमुदितैः प्रविशन्निकेतं वातालयाधिप विभो परिपाहि रोगात्
नश्यन्मते तदनु विश्वपदिं मुहुस्वां नत्वा च नूतवति दादरिदामयादे बोधैः समं प्रमुदितैः प्रविशन्निकेतं वातालयाधिप विभो परिपाहि रोगात् नश्यन्मदे तदनु विश्वपदिं मुहुस्वां नत्वा च नूतवति दादरिदामयादे बोधैः समं प्रमुदितैः प्रविशन्निकेतं वातालयाधिप विभो परिपाहि रोगात्.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Just to maybe couple stanzas of 54, if you have it ready. So 54 and 55 are also connected chapters. So 54 is Kaliyasya Yamuna Hrade Nivasasya Karana Varnanam. So reason for the Kaliya snake to come to Yamuna is 54. 55 is the Kaliya Nardanam and all of that happens, right? Dance on Kaliya happens in the 55th chapter. So stanza 1. Tvatsevodka Saubharirnama Purvam Kalandyantadvadashabdham Tapasyan Meenavrate Snehavan Bhogalole Takshyam Sakshada Ikshatagre Kadachit. So you'll see a couple of instances of people who meditate underwater. So we will see, I think it is in the 18th chapter, I believe, this Prachetas who meditate underwater for thousands of years. And similarly, there was this sage called a Saubhari. The Saubhari was meditating under the waters of the Yamuna river for 12 years. He was completely meditating under the water and meditating for 12 years. So when you're sitting under the water, what he noticed was he noticed a lot of fishes. He notices that once in a while, whenever he opens his eyes or whatever. And one day he saw Garuda come there to eat the fish. So Tvat Sevotkas Saubharir Nama Purvam, Kalindhyantar Dwadashabdham Tapasyan Meenavrate Snehavan Bhogalole Tarkshyam Sakshad Aikshatagre, if you want to break it, Aikshatagre Kadachit. त्वत्सेवोत्कः सौभरिर्नाम पूर्वं कालिन्द्यन्तर्द्वादशाब्दं तपस्यन् मीनव्राते स्नेहवान् भोगलोले तार्क्ष्यं साक्षादैक्षताग्रे कदाचित्.
त्वत्सेवोत्कः सौभरिर्नाम पूर्वं कालिन्द्यन्तर्द्वादशाब्दं तपस्यन् मीनव्राते स्नेहवान् भोगलोले तार्क्ष्यं साक्षादैक्षताग्रे कदाचित्. त्वत्सेवोत्कः सौभरिर्नाम पूर्वं कालिन्द्यन्तर्द्वादशाब्दं तपस्यन् मीनव्राते स्नेहवान् भोगलोले तार्क्ष्यं साक्षादैक्षताग्रे कदाचित्.
द्वत्सेवोत्कः सौभरिर्नाम पूर्वं कालिन्द्यन्तर्द्वादशाब्दं तपस्यन् मीनव्राते स्नेहवान् भोगलोले दार्क्ष्यं साक्षात् दैक्षताग्रे कदाचित्.
And the word is better to break it. Sakshad Aikshataagre.
साक्षात्
Tarkshyam Sakshad Aikshataagre Kadachit.
वत्सेवोत्कः सौभरिर्नाम पूर्वं कालिन्द्यन्तर्द्वादशाब्दं तपस्यन् मीनव्राते स्नेहवान् भोगलोले दार्क्ष्यं साक्षात् ऐक्षताग्रे कदाचित्.
त्वद्वाहं तं सक्षुधं त्रिक्षसूनुं मीनं कञ्चिज्जक्षतं लक्षयन् सः तप्तश्चित्ते शप्तवानत्र चेत्त्वं जन्तून् भोक्ता जीवितं चापि मोक्ता. So because the Saubhari, although he was meditating under the water for 12 years, like I said, he started getting affectionate towards the fishes who were there. Like, because he used to see the fishes every day. So he used to know who those fishes were. So when this Garuda comes one day, and this Garuda ends up consuming the main fish and a couple of those fishes. So then this Saubhari is seeing how the family of those fishes are now beginning to struggle because the main fish has gotten eaten. So he knows suddenly, as a sadhu or as a sage, you are not supposed to develop any sort of attachment with anything, whether it's good or it is bad. Because Garuda, which is like an eagle like that, has to eat fishes. That is its food. So you can't prevent it from not eating, right? At the same time, of course, the fish are dying, but you cannot feel that attachment. But however, the Saubhari is feeling that attachment right now. So what he curses Garuda to say that I do not want you to come to this place anymore. I do not want you to consume even one fish from this Yamuna river. And if you do, I'm cursing that you will die. So he puts a curse. Twadvaham tam sakshudham triksha sunum, meenam kanchij jakshatam lakshayan saha taptash chitte shaptavanatra chetvam, jantun bhokta jivitam chapi mokta. Twadvaham tam sakshudham triksha sunum meenam kanchij jakshatam lakshayan saha taptaschitte shaptavanatra chetvam jantun bhokta jivitam chapi mokta.
त्वद्वाहं तं सक्षुधुं तृक्षसूनुं मीनं कञ्चिज्जक्षतं लक्षयन् सः तप्तश्चित्ते शप्तवानत्र चेत्त्वं त्वं जन्तून् भोक्ता जीवितं चापि मोक्ता त्वद्वाहं तं सक्षुधं तृक्षसूनुं मीनं कञ्चिज्जक्षतं लक्षयन् सः तप्तश्चित्ते शप्तवानत्र चेत्त्वं जन्तून् भोक्ता जीवितं चापि मोक्ता
त्वद्वाहं तं सक्षुधं दृक्षसूनुं मीनं कञ्चिज्जक्षतं लक्षयन् सः तप्तश्चित्ते सप्तवानन्द्रचेत्त्वं जन्तून् भोक्ता जीवितं चाभिमोक्ता त्वद्वाहं तं सूक्षदं दृक्षसूनुं
तक्षुदं
त्वद्वाहं सक्षुदं दृक्षसूनुं मीनं कञ्चिज्जक्षतं तक्षयन् सः तप्तश्चित्ते सप्तवानन्द्रचेत्त्वं जन्तून् भोक्ता जीवितं चाभिमोक्ता.
कृष्णाय परब्रह्मणे नमः. End the class here. सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भास्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनरुरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावद्भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे हन्त भाग्यं जनानां कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. Thank you everybody. See you next
Thank
week.
you, Rajesh.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Rajesh.
you, Rajesh garu.
Thank you, Rajesh.